Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Fluent English with Podcast. I'm your host, Sophie.
And I'm Alan. Happy to be here with all of you passionate English learners out there.
Absolutely. As you know, Fluent English with Podcast is designed to help you improve your listening and speaking skills in a fun and engaging way. We do this by focusing on real-life conversations, helping you learn practical vocabulary and expressions you can use in everyday situations.
Exactly. Each episode centers around a specific topic, and through conversations, interviews, and helpful tips, we aim to equip you with the tools you need to become a confident English communicator.
Today's topic might resonate with many of you: why I can't understand native English speakers. Have you ever struggled to understand native speakers, even though you feel comfortable with your English skills on paper?
Oh, absolutely. This is a very common challenge for English learners. Native speakers often speak quickly, use contractions and slang, and sometimes even mumble their words. It can be overwhelming.
Let's take an example. Imagine you're at a coffee shop and you hear two friends talking. One might say, "Hey, have you seen Mike lately? He's gonna be at the party tonight."
Now, this sentence might sound confusing if you're not familiar with contractions like gonna, for, going to, or informal language like be at.
Exactly. This is why exposure to natural conversations is so important. Over time, you'll start to pick up on these everyday expressions and how native speakers use them.
Throughout this episode, we'll be joined by several listeners who will share their experiences with this challenge. We'll also listen to some short conversations that highlight the difficulties learners face.
So get ready to learn some valuable tips and strategies to improve your listening comprehension and feel more confident when interacting with native English speakers.
Sounds like a fun and informative episode ahead. Let's dive in.
In our first interview today, we're joined by Yuna, a listener from South Korea. Yuna, tell us a bit about your experience learning English and the challenges you face with understanding native speakers.
Hi Sophie, hi Alan. Thanks for having me. I've been studying English for several years and I can read and write pretty well. But when I try to listen to native speakers, especially in movies or TV shows, it all sounds so fast and mumbled. I can catch some words here and there, but it's hard to understand the full conversation.
That's a very common experience, Yuna. Many learners feel comfortable with written English but struggle with listening comprehension.
Exactly. I understand the grammar and vocabulary when I see it written down, but when people speak quickly and use slang, it completely throws me off.
Do you find it challenging to understand different accents as well?
Oh yes, in my textbooks everyone sounds the same. But in real life there are so many different accents. American English sounds different from British English, and then there are all the regional variations within each country. It's overwhelming.
You're absolutely right, Yuna. There's a wide range of accents in the English language. But the good news is, the more you expose yourself to different accents, the easier it will become to understand them.
That makes sense. I guess I need to find more resources with natural conversations and different accents.
Definitely. We'll share some tips on finding those resources later in the episode. But for now, Yuna, thanks for sharing your experience.
Thank you for having me.
As Yuna mentioned, accents can be a real hurdle when it comes to understanding native speakers. Let's listen to a brief conversation that highlights this challenge.
Excuse me, do you know where the bakery is?
Sure thing. It's just around the corner, past the flower stall. You can't miss it. It's got a big red awning.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. The flower what?
The flower stall, the little shop selling flowers. You know, those colourful things that smell nice?
Oh, right. The flower shop. Thank you so much.
As you heard, the fast pace of the conversation and the use of an unfamiliar term like flower stall made it difficult for the first person to understand the directions.
Exactly. This is why it's important to build your vocabulary and be familiar with everyday expressions used by native speakers.
Now, let's dive into some practical tips to improve your listening comprehension.
Absolutely. Here are a few things you can do.
Expose yourself to natural English. This is key. Listen to podcasts, audiobooks, movies, and TV shows in English. Start with materials that have slower speech and clear pronunciation, and gradually increase the difficulty as you get more comfortable.
Focus on understanding the main idea. Don't get hung up on every single word. Try to grasp the overall message of the conversation. Often you can understand the gist of things, even if you miss a few words here and there.
Pay attention to context. Look at the situation surrounding the conversation. Who are the speakers? Where are they? What are they talking about? The context can help you fill in the gaps and understand what's being said.
Use captions and subtitles. When watching movies or TV shows, turn on the captions or subtitles. This will help you match the spoken word with the written text, improving your listening comprehension.
Practice shadowing. Listen to a short sentence from a native speaker and then try to repeat it exactly, mimicking their intonation and pronunciation. This is a great way to train your ear to pick up on the nuances of spoken English.
These are all excellent tips, Alan. In addition to these, there are many online resources available that offer listening exercises and activities specifically designed to improve comprehension.
Exactly. And remember, practice makes perfect. The more you expose yourself to natural English and actively engage in listening activities, the better you'll become at understanding native speakers.
For our next interview, we have David joining us from Brazil. David, tell us about your experience learning English and the specific difficulties you face with understanding native speakers.
Hey Sophie, hey Alan. Thanks for having me. My English is pretty good on paper, but listening is a whole different story. I understand the grammar and vocabulary when I learn it, but native speakers talk so fast and sometimes connect their words together. It all sounds like a big mush.
That's a great point, David. Native speakers often use contractions and reduced pronunciations to speak more fluently. For example, going to becomes gonna and did you becomes didja.
Exactly. These little changes throw me off completely. In textbooks, everything is written out perfectly, but in real life, it's all shortened and mumbled.
Do you find it helpful to slow down audio recordings when you're listening?
Absolutely. Sometimes I have to listen to podcasts or movies at half speed to understand what they're saying. It's a bit tedious, but it helps me catch the individual words and how they connect.
That's a great strategy, David. Many language learning apps and websites allow you to adjust the playback speed of audio recordings.
I also try to focus on the rhythm of the speech. Native speakers don't always pause between every word, and understanding the flow of the conversation can be helpful.
Those are both excellent tips. Focusing on the rhythm and slowing down audio can make a big difference in your comprehension.
David, thanks for sharing your experience. It seems like you're using some great strategies to overcome this challenge.
Thanks for having me. I'm sure other learners struggle with the same thing.
As David mentioned, native speakers often connect words and speak with a natural rhythm. Let's listen to a short conversation that exemplifies this challenge.
Hey honey, did you see where the frisbee went?
No, but I saw Mr. Jones walking his dog over there. Can we go pet him?
In a minute, sweetie. Let's first try to find the frisbee so we can keep playing catch.
Did you notice how the mom connected did you into didja and how the words walking his dog flowed together almost seamlessly?
Yes, exactly. This is a common feature of spoken English, and it can be difficult for learners who are used to more formal, grammatically correct speech.
Absolutely. But don't worry, with practice and exposure, you'll start to pick up on these natural speech patterns and become more comfortable understanding native speakers.
We've heard from listeners about their struggles and explored some practical tips for improving listening comprehension. Now let's delve into some resources that can be incredibly helpful on your learning journey.
Absolutely. Here are a few resources to consider.
Podcasts. Podcasts are a fantastic way to expose yourself to natural English conversations on a variety of topics. There are podcasts for every interest, from news and current events to science and entertainment. Many podcasts even offer transcripts, which you can read along with the audio to improve your comprehension.
Audiobooks. Listening to audiobooks is another great way to practice listening comprehension. Choose books you're interested in and try to find audiobooks narrated by native speakers. This will help you get accustomed to the natural flow and rhythm of spoken English.
Movies and TV shows. Watching movies and TV shows in English can be a fun and engaging way to improve your listening skills. Start with shows that have clear pronunciation and subtitles available. As you get more comfortable, you can try watching shows without subtitles.
YouTube channels. There are many YouTube channels dedicated to helping English learners improve their listening comprehension. These channels often offer listening exercises, conversations, and explanations of common idioms and expressions.
Language learning apps. Many language learning apps offer features specifically designed to improve listening comprehension. These apps may include audio lessons, quizzes, and games that help you train your ear to understand spoken English.
In addition to these resources, remember to leverage the power of the internet. Find online communities and forums where you can connect with other English learners and native speakers. Participating in conversations online can be a great way to practice your listening skills in a safe and supportive environment.
Absolutely. The key is to find resources you enjoy and that fit your learning style. The more you enjoy the content, the more likely you are to stick with it and see improvement.
For our final interview segment today, we're joined by Patricia from Argentina. Patricia, tell us about your experience learning English and the challenges you face with understanding native English speakers.
Hi, Sophie. Hi, Alan. Thanks for having me. I feel pretty good with my English overall, but understanding native speakers can be tricky sometimes. The biggest challenge for me is the slang.
Interesting. Slang can definitely be a hurdle for learners. It's informal language that's constantly evolving, and it can be difficult to keep up with all the new expressions.
Exactly. I'll be having a conversation with someone, and they'll throw in a slang term I've never heard before. It completely throws me off track, and I have no idea what they're talking about.
Do you find that certain age groups use more slang than others?
Absolutely. Teenagers seem to have their own secret language of slang words. Sometimes even young adults use slang that I'm not familiar with.
That's a good point, Patricia. Slang is often used within specific social groups or generations. It can be a way of showing solidarity or belonging.
I understand that, but it's still frustrating. I wish there was a dictionary for all the slang words out there.
There isn't one single dictionary for slang, but there are online resources and websites dedicated to slang terms and their meanings. You can also try watching shows or movies aimed at younger audiences to pick up on some popular slang.
However, it's important to remember that slang is constantly changing. A term that's popular today might be outdated tomorrow. The best approach is to focus on understanding the overall context of the conversation and not get too hung up on every slang word.
That makes sense. Maybe I shouldn't worry about memorizing every slang term, but rather focus on understanding the general flow of the conversation.
Exactly, Patricia. Thanks for sharing your perspective. Slang can be a challenge, but with some effort, you can learn to navigate it and become more comfortable understanding native English speakers.
This concludes our listener interviews for today's episode. We've heard from Yuna, David, and Patricia, all with unique challenges when it comes to understanding native English speakers.
Absolutely, but remember, these challenges are common, and with the right strategies and resources, you can overcome them and become a confident listener.
We'll be back next time with more tips and tricks to help you improve your English communication skills. Until then, happy learning.